Welcome to the Pragati Vichar Literature Festival 2023, organized by Frontlist Media. This year's theme is Taking Humanity Forward. Today, we are all present here to celebrate the affection for literature and discuss the pivotal subject matters prevailing in the society and establish engaging conversations with the audience. Today's session's theme is storytelling, and the topic is It's All Within You. And today, we will be talking to one of the eminent personalities in the publishing industry. List of panelists we have today Avinash Agarwal, sir, and Deepam Chatterjee, sir. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction. I'm going to give the audience a brief introduction of both of them. I'm going to start with Avinash Agarwal. Avinash Agarwal is a Gen Z parent, a study skill and habit coach for students, and the author of five best selling books. He has been working in the field of mentoring for over 15 years with the intent to understand a topper's mindset and what it takes to crack prestigious competitive exams. He firmly believes every child can be a topper. Through his books and online programs, he endeavors to impart the right learning strategies, techniques, and mindset to students to convert their potential into performance. He has written a book called Stop Being a Muggu, and we will be talking about this book as well in the session itself. Second, we have Deepam Chatterjee, sir. Deepam Chatterjee is a retired Indian Army captain. He took up filmmaking after a debilitating spinal injury compelled him to leave the army. It was during this period that he spent time with various spiritual teachers, including the Dalai Lama. Later, he trained under Sri Ravi Shankar and taught the art of living courses before embarking on a journey of self exploration. A keen researcher as well as a chronicler of oral narratives. Deepam sir writes and lectures on Hindu thought, meditation, spirituality, mysticism, mythology, and wellness. He has translated a significant body of Sanskrit works into easily readable literature for young readers and mainstream audiences. His work appears regularly in newspapers and periodicals across the country. He has also written a book called Millennial Yogi, and we will be talking about it as well in the question and answer round. So I'm going to start with the very basic and common questions that you most probably get in the interviews that you've given up till now. That please share something about your book and the key message you try to convey to the readers. I'm going to start with you, Deepak sir.
Thank you so much for this lovely introduction, and I'm honored to be part of this panel and E-Pragati, E-Vichar Literature Festival. It is honor to be part of this, and I'm sure a lot more is going to come out of this. Well, about the book, The Millennial Yogi has been in print for about 4 to 5 months now. The story is about reclaiming our lives. That is the essence of the book. And we have to see that it is about our lives. We are going through all kinds of things in our lives and we make mistakes. We falter, we create a lot of problems for ourselves by the actions we take. And therefore, in this story, a lot more has been explored about how we can reclaim our lives after having come to the lowest point of our lives. The essence of Hindu thought is that nobody is evil, nobody is completely deplorable. There is always redemption. And that is the whole basis of this story, which is the story of a young entrepreneur called Jay and his mentor Vinny. The story is told in a dual parallel kind of a setting. Two time zones are explored in that. Vinny is a teacher who is almost similar. His beginnings are similar to the beginnings of Jai, and Jai goes through a lot of faltering, makes a lot of wrong choices in life, and at one point he reaches where he has lost all friends, he's lost family, he's lost everything, and he's at the verge of killing himself. It's at that point he meets this maverick singer, baul, and Sufi music explorer, Vinny, who is on his own self exploration journey, which we have explored alternately in the previous part of the story. And then in the second part of the book, it is Vinny who teaches Jay to reclaim his life. He starts with a very basic thing called the karmic ATM, and what is WYSIWYG, which is what you put in is what you get out of life. So, and so this whole story is around that. That whatever we have put into something in our lives, like an ATM, is only that which we can draw out. So, how to transform that, how to change that, all the methods that come out of our Vedanta, of our ancient scriptures, have been distilled into the second part of the book through the teachings of Vinny and how Jay reclaims his life. So, in a nutshell, that is the story of the millennial yogi.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to start with you, Avinash. So, what do you want to say? Please share something about your book.
Yeah, thank you for giving me an opportunity. And Deepam ji, I just heard the entire plot of your book. The next thing which I'm going to do after this session is that go and have a copy of the book. It looks very very interesting.
Thank you.
See, the book "Stop Being a Maggu" is the story of three students, Lakshya, Abhyas, and Chunky. So Lakshya is a born topper. Abhyas is a average kind of a boy, Ragdu, Gissu, Maggu, whatever you call him. And Chunky is a kind of Romeo kind of a boy who's found in cafeterias, movies, theaters, and all those kind of things. So the story revolves around the fact, which happens to lakhs and lakhs or probably crores of students, is that most of the students score less, not because of lack of knowledge, hard work, or intelligence. I repeat it, most of the students score less, not because of lack of knowledge, hard work, or intelligence, but because of lack of direction, guidance, and planned approach. Most of the students and parents think that success is all about working hard. Most of the parents and students think that it is all about IQ. But the basic difference between an average student, which is Abhyas, and Lakshya, is neither in terms of hard work nor in terms of IQ. Difference is somewhere else. What is that somewhere else? And how is that Abhyas learns from Lakshya and he realizes that everything lies within. I'm going to say everything lies within. वो कहते हैं ना, उम्र भर गालिब यही भूल करता रहा, धूल चेहरे पे थी, आईना साफ करता रहा. कभी टीचर को ब्लेम करना, कभी उसको कहना वो गॉड गिफ्टेड है, कभी वो कहना कि उसके पेरेंट ऐसे हैं, उसके पास ये है. Then suddenly he realizes that success actually is an inside outside concept. Unless and until you transform within, unless and until you take charge and transform yourself within, irrespective of fact, whichever teacher, coaching, or books you have, it is not going to make any difference. So the story is about the transformation of Abhyas from an average student to a topper. That is what Stop Being Maggu is. And the inspiration behind this book is that if India wants to become a 5 trillion economy, we have to transform the youth. Youth, it has to be, and in a knowledge driven society, in a knowledge driven economy, this transformation or this march of India towards 5 trillion economy can only be through education and transformation of the youth. So that is what is the theme, that is what is the objective, and that is what was the thought behind writing this book.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And you have told Deepam sir that you will be receiving one copy after this session. I'm going to receive a copy of both of your books
Sure, sure,
because
anytime.
it is really giving me this motivation, this positivity after after you have told me about what are the key factors that is involved in your book. So I am sure I'm gonna read and get a lot of things out of it. So thank you so much for writing these books. I'm going to start with my second question. And so, in this generation where I'm in, I'm like 22 years old, and so many of youngsters right now in this generation are feeling like they are not good enough, right? And I mean, they are too much in their competitive spirit that he or she is better than me, and it's a race basically. And so, how can we conquer this idea of not being enough? And I'm going to start with you, Avinash, sir, on this.
See, not being enough, I would, answer this with the fact that this is the biggest myth. This is the biggest fallacy. This is the biggest misconcept which most of the students have, is that everybody else is sorted, everybody else has arrived, I'm lagging behind. And in this story, Stop Being Magoo, the Lakshya Abhyas also realizes, Abhyas also feels in the initial part of the book कि लक्ष्य बहुत आगे है, वो बहुत सॉर्टेड है, उससे सब कुछ बन रहा है, मेहनत नहीं कर रहा, फिर भी मार्क्स बहुत ज्यादा आ रहे हैं, but he takes time to realize that he has to carve his own path. He has to carve his own path, and his transformation journey starts from identifying that the success lies within. The moment he realizes that what are his strong and weak areas, that is when his transformation journey starts. So I would say that, in fact, apart from the book, I have interviewed hundreds and hundreds of toppers of different competitive examinations. So I would like to, being very, I would like to say frankly that बहुत सारे टॉपर उतने ही कंफ्यूज होते हैं जितने की एवरेज स्टूडेंट होते हैं. और एवरेज स्टूडेंट हरदम यही समझता है that everybody else is sorted, मैं ही पीछे रह गया हूँ, and all those kind of things.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And Deepam, sir, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I have been teaching people for some time, must be about 30 years now. So, in that, various things like this are very important. Although I'm not taught people how to succeed in the sense that Sir was talking just now, but even in the book, I start with the fact that Jay is a very successful man already, but he has chosen wrong paths and shortcuts to reach success. Often, the young people want to, do things in a hurry. That's the first chapter of the book is called Young Man in a Hurry. It is a man who wants to succeed very quickly in life who makes mistakes. And that is the essence of the story's beginning, that this man is now on about to crack a multi-million dollar deal, and he is on a high at that time. Suddenly he realizes that his life is in shambles now. So I don't want to go deep into the story to tell you how all that suddenly happens, but he's giving bribes to get a lot of big projects. And that is how he finds that the success is not going to last. Now we come to your question directly, that people are frustrated because they don't have direction. And as Sir just said, the direction is missing because we are not guided enough by the people who we look up to today. The basic thing about the younger generations today is that we are looking to the wrong ideals. I'll ask you personally one question, and all the viewers, whenever you think about this thing, who are your heroes right now? I'm not talking of the heroes from the film industry or anything. Just name three people that you look up to. Wow, look at this guy, he's achieved so much. Just one person from any three areas of your life. I'm sure that it will not be a person who's very close to your family today in the area of success. You look up to people who are like on Instagram with 5 million followers, or you're looking at a person who has, like, probably Elon Musk made like $200 billion, or you're looking at a person like maybe someone who is sitting at the top of the chain like a Mukesh Ambani, or someone in the film industry like maybe somebody like Tapsi Pannu or someone. These are not real heroes. Our problem is that we admire people because of what we lack, what we want to achieve. Guidance will come only when we start looking for, someone who can firmly turn us to one direction, that hey, you need to first get yourself grounded. You need to find what you want to really be. So I'll tell you one small thing. You know, you stop enjoying work after you have got your job. Till then, you put in a lot of effort to get your job, isn't it? Once you got your job, you start working. After a few months, you start feeling, hey, this is not what I wanted. I want the money. I want the freebies that you can buy with this money. You know, the stuff that I can buy with this money is why I'm doing this job. And I want to be with my friends. I want to go on vacations. I want to have a good car. I want to have a good house. And all that is going to happen in the future, but you are not happy because at this point you are slogging 18 hours a day, isn't it? So, what you want may not be what you really need in your life. And after a little while, you realize it was not the job you wanted, but the money. And then you realize it's not the money you wanted, but the money is the means to get to what you want. What you want is something totally different from what the job gives you. It's neither the money, it is something totally different. So I ask all the people who come to me that ask yourself, why do you want this money? Suppose you have this money, what will you do with it? So most of the people answer that we want to, go and give gifts to our parents. We want to see a smile on their faces. We want to give gifts to our brothers and sisters. We want to take them out on dinners and holidays, and then we want to enjoy. So primarily, ultimately, it all boils down to being part of a family where you can be someone who can share stuff with them. So your job is actually to reach that point where you get to have the freedom to do what you want, yet you want to do things for the family. So if you examine this cycle, somewhere there is a lot of emptiness inside us the moment we get our jobs. Because when you're having a job, any job, good job with a lot of money or less money, hardworking, and yet feeling that you're wasted, you're not actually able to do those very things after having a job and getting a salary which you dreamed of doing before you started your job. And that's what's the basis of frustration in the youngsters today. So that's where I think the journey has to start, a soul search, asking yourself what you really want from your life and why are you doing what you're doing in your life. So these two questions we need to keep answering always, every few days the answer will change, and you will find that, oh, I'm not really interested in making so much money. I'm more interested in probably sitting with my friends once in the weekend and having a laugh together. So that's where I take it from here. Back to you.
Thank you so much, sir. And one question arises right now in my mind, and it is that one should follow passion or profession. So, because one will give you money and one will give you the satisfaction that you will be having, that this is what I wanted from a long time, but that passion will not pay you enough. So, what should you follow, even if you have a direction?
I can give you an example again because I know Sir is probably more competent to answer that part of the question of passion and profession. For me, I will just like to say one important thing, that they both can be one. They can be together. You can have a profession which can be your passion also. I think I am fortunate that I could do that, but it takes time. It took me about 2 decades to get to a point where my profession and my passion merged. Till then, it was different. Till then, I was trying to figure out what is it that I enjoy doing. And finally, I find that I have been fortunate that now what I enjoy doing is giving me decent amount of income. So I say that you need to keep exploring, you need to keep experimenting and trying out. Today, Gen Z and the other new generations which are coming up, are constantly experimenting with things. They don't want a long term job for the one reason that they want to keep trying out new things. I think it's not a bad idea. However, though we call it gigs, this kind of work culture, gig culture, doesn't leave you fully happy and satisfied. So, passion is something which can be, drawn out of ourselves after a lot of self exploration. And I'm sure that if you can find a profession where you can earn money and yet enjoy it, then that becomes your passion also. So, over to Sir.
No, no, very well said, sir. Nothing much left to be said. I would only add to it is that you have to find a middle ground. And obviously, as Deepam sir has just said, that you keep on doing whatever you're doing, and somewhere down the line, both these things, the magic happens when both these things merge with each other and become one. And that is when you enter into a blissful state. And the idea is that whatever you do, give it your 100%. Try to be in the moment. Try to enjoy the journey rather than trying to too much focus about ki kya hoga, kaise hoga. What is more important than achieving the goals or reaching the destination is that what we become during the journey or at the end of the journey. So I also at times feel, and we we unnecessary try to complex make things complicated. Life is very simple. बहुत बार मुझे ऐसा लगता है जबरदस्ती में हम चीजों को पैशन प्रोफेशन ये सब चीजें वो एक वो इकागाई बुक है उसमें चार पांच उन्होंने बना रखे हैं अननेसेसरी का कॉम्प्लिकेशन एट टाइम्स आई फील दैट अननेसेसरली वी आर कॉम्प्लिकेटिंग थिंग्स जो भी काम करें एंड दिस इज वेदर इट इज ए स्टूडेंट और वेदर इट इज ए प्रोफेशनल और वेदर इट इज ए कोच whatever we do we should believe in giving inputs. Output is not in our hand, and that is what Bhagavad Gita also says. इन भगवत गीता में भी हम बात जब करते हैं तो हम बात करते हैं एक होता है नॉलेज एक होता है एक्शन दोनों बात कहीं ना कहीं जाके पीक पे पहुंच जाते हैं और पीक पे मिलते हैं एंड पीक हैज नो डायमेंशंस दैट इज व्हाट इज द सेम थिंग लाइक पैशन एंड प्रोफेशन इसको कितने भी हम वर्ड्स में कॉइन कर सकते हैं वी कैन मेक इट लुक फैंसी वी कैन पुट देम अ कैप अंडर अ कैप ऑफ फैंसी वर्ड्स but at the end of the day it is very simple.
Absolutely well said. And I think that we need to find that sweet spot in our lives, and it doesn't come from within. आप करते रहेंगे, and I have found that you have to actually start discarding a lot of things you love doing. You may become very good at doing a number of things which you need to stop or give up doing, to a point that you can actually start finding that there are people who want what you do. It is something which takes a little time to search and find out. Like for me, I am an ex-army officer. Then I moved into filmmaking, etc., whatever was mentioned. But I primarily wanted to tell stories. And when I wanted to tell stories, at the point when I left army, I was paralyzed. I had a lot of issues with my body and health. And from there, it took time for me to come to a point where I started exploring how I can tell stories to the world. And it took almost 16 years before I could tell a big story to the world. And it's not something that I to scare anyone who's on a journey and begins a journey. But the 16 years, whatever I have learned, has led me to tell stories today for the world. And people have, I think they have started enjoying those stories because I have taken those 16 years to train myself. And ultimately, I'm lucky now that filmmakers, television, and various other media have liked the kind of stories I tell. So the whole idea is that figure out what you love doing. Forget whether it will give you money or not. And at one point, somebody will come and say, Sir, we would like to listen to you. We would like to learn from you. But till then, you have to learn from the world. You can't just stop and sit and say, I know everything. Now you come and learn from me. That can't happen. Back to you.
Absolutely, sir. Okay. So, my next question is only some are fortunate to fulfill their dreams, and those people who are privileged enough, they don't really understand the feeling of being too ambitious or optimistic daily. Do you agree with this context? And because there is a saying that, if you have everything sorted out, if your parents have already sorted things out for you, you don't really need to have a ambitious life. You don't really need to worry much because you already have enough, and it will pay off eventually. You can do a decent amount of job, and you can do whatever you want to do in your life, and you can explore much. But if people who are not privileged enough, they don't really have the money to, like you are saying, that start exploring, keep exploring. But some of us, we don't really have the time and the money also to explore, to invest. We also have a family to support. So what would you like to say in this context? Avinash sir, I'm going to start with
Avinash.
you.
So I would answer this question from the context of students, and I would again say the same thing which I just shared is that because every year I interact with lakhs and lakhs of students who are preparing for different competitive examination, and preparing for competitive examination like life is a roller coaster ride. I would say it goes up and it goes down, and your success and failure is determined by how calm and composed you are when your poster is going down or is going through a rough phase. So my answer to this would be, I would again reiterate that destination is not important. Some goals are not to be achieved. Even if you don't achieve them, that's okay. What is important is that the journey and what you become in that journey. I have seen lots of students who prepare for competitive examinations like UPSC. Many of them discover their calling while they're preparing. That this is what I want to do. I don't want to prepare for UPSC, but the preparation, the journey gives them a platform wherein they realize and they recognize that this is what connects to me. My son is in class 12th. He was not a very padhaku type ladka nahi tha. He was very fun loving kind of a boy. He's currently in class 12th. He has been preparing for engineering entrance examination, which requires a rigorous study of 4 to 6 hours every day. Every time whenever he's anxious, I said, my son, you are already a winner. You have won this game. The game of chasing a goal for a period of 8-10 months. Now whatever result comes, whether you win or whether you lose, whether you get selected or you do not get selected, you are already a winner. किसी एक चीज के पीछे शिद्दत से एक साल मेहनत करना अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा अचीवमेंट है. In this world of called reels and shorts, wherein we want instant dopamine rush after every 30 seconds, preparing for anything for a period of 1 year. And I strongly feel that what we should focus upon is in enjoying whatever we are doing, being in the present moment. Outputs are never in our hand. We should only and only worry about input. The moment you start approaching anything in life with these thoughts in mind, I can confidently say that you have won the game even before you have started. So that is my thought process.
Deepam sir.
Yes. So I'll go back to the question you asked, that there are everyone doesn't have the luxury of time, and that parents will give us a lot more of opportunity if they have a lot of means. I somehow don't tend to agree with that part very much, at least when I look at our generation. But the way the world has moved, our grandparents, my kind of time, let's say my grandparents were there in the first phase of India's growth, let's say in the 40s to the 60s. Their aim was to understand, how to build a life for a large family. Those days, families were pretty large. And then came our parents' generation, which was somewhere between the mid 60s to mid 80s. They were struggling to build houses, buy a small, maybe a Lambretta in those days, and maybe later on a car, a Maruti car. Our generation came up in the mid 70s 80s, and then our thing was that we want to get into a fixed job and send income home. That was the primary way we used to think in the up to the millennium 2000, when the next generation took over, the millennials actually begin at 1981, and then they were already early 20s in the maybe 2002 2003, when India was going through a major revolution at that time. So their job, they were not looking at building houses or this thing. The parents had already done that part for them, and they were now looking to explore avenues of getting into a little more risky business than lawyer, engineer, doctor. They wanted to try out their hand at becoming maybe chartered accountants or something else, which was a little different from what the mainstream kind of thinking was. So thinking were opening up in India at that time. And then came your generations, which were like somewhere 2015 or so, they started picking up jobs. They have started looking at a very different way of thinking. They don't want to get bogged down by strong, officious looking thought process. And now with the work from home coming in, their mind has expanded into many other areas. So opportunity wise, life has moved generation to generation in a different way. However, when we come to people thinking the kind of thoughts that you are talking, that there is less opportunity when there are lesser means, I don't think that is true in almost all the sense, but maybe yes in majority. लेकिन बात ये कहने की है कि मौके मिल रहे हैं सब तरह के. आप में अगर टैलेंट है, आप में अगर डेडिकेशन है, आप में अगर ऑनेस्ट सिंसियर इंटीग्रल थिंकिंग है कि मुझे कहीं पहुंचना है, तो आप पहुंच सकते हैं. And that has been in every generation. However, in the generations of the ones who are like now, who are about early 20s, who are thinking of expanding their thought process, there is a very important thought, that is, internet has made almost everything available for free for them. So if you want to have a skill you want to train in without going anywhere, you go to YouTube and still get those videos. If you have talent, you can go to places. Now TikTok is closed down, other places, and make videos and become very famous on Instagram, etc. So there are opportunities for different people. I'm not saying that they're not there. However, the kind of thinking that you're talking about as कि भाई इनको मौके कम मिले क्योंकि इनके माँ बाप के पास उतना मीन्स नहीं था, ये मेरे ख्याल में अब हट गया है. ये थॉट प्रोसेस कम हो गई है, बिकॉज वी as a nation, as a society, have become more, I would say, physically, more able, more aware, and more accessible to the world and to each other. You know, that is a very important thing to understand. कि हमारी जो लाइफ है उसमें मौके हैं, लेकिन क्या हम वो मौके लेना चाहते हैं या हम डर के उसको छोड़ के पुरानी सिक्योर एरिया में घुसना चाहते हैं. My book talks about taking risks. It talks about moving into a thought which is that, hey, I did something wrong. I made a mistake. But today I have the opportunity to right it, to make it right. And how to make it right has a systematic process. So, galti karo. I always encourage people to make mistakes. Don't remain in that safe cocoon of life. And I think that you must find a way to explore what you really want to be. Our life is not about just being, inside a AC room and writing away or typing away on the laptop. You might be wanting to sail the seven seas, climb a mountain, walk in a forest, maybe go with a friend to visit some kind of a, Mesopotamia, or maybe something like even in India, you find those ruins which are like unexplored. Or maybe just go and chill with people in a unique way, and you may want to just sit and be silent, just meditate. It's all fine. That's the beauty of today, that the means are there for you to live a life of your own. And it is important that we find that life for ourselves, because the youth today is going through a huge amount of mental strain. The whole globe, there are resignations, global resignation is happening. Every day we are hearing like 20, 30,000 people being let off their jobs with pink slips. So what do they do now? That is a very important question. They will not have a job, they will not have a permanent income. But can you lead a life of your own, fulfilled life? That question you have to think about as a youngster, that, oh, when this happened, the pandemic happened, there was migration. People, there was simple things like, जो beauty parlor में काम करते हैं, they are not very well educated people. Bombay was full of these northeast people. Like there were like thousands and thousands going back home with no work, no pay, and no future. But I'm telling you today, once things are back to normal, they don't want to come back. It's not that the things have stopped. People are work still. बाल तो बड़े हो ही रहे हैं सबके. तो बाल काटने के लिए ब्यूटी पार्लर में लोग कम पड़ रहे हैं, वेटर्स कम आ रहे हैं. Why? They have found in these 2 years that they can be with their family, they can work from home, they can do small enterprises, and they can have a happier life than coming to a place like Bombay, living in one room, 4 or 5 people, and then going and sharing one bathroom, one, eating only like vada paos and all kind of that, junk food, and sitting in an AC room, making little more money, I guess, yes, but not happy. So you have to find that, balance when you want, when can be happy and have decent amount of money. So I'm sure this probably is a direction you can think on.
Thank you so much, sir. So, lastly, I really would like our audience to know from you that what advice and guidance you would like to give to all the people from my age also, and all the budding writers and all the people who are working really hard for themselves to achieve something in life.
Myself,
Yes, sir, you can start.
the first thing, take that story out of yourself. If there is a story inside you, just don't keep it there. Write it down, share it with friends. Nobody's going to steal your ideas. Don't be afraid. Just share. And when you share, your story will, grow. It will tell you to tell itself. The story is living inside you. So, as a writer, don't worry about syntax, don't worry about construction of the story, don't worry about structure. Just get your story out. कोई भी कहानी हो सकती है आपके अंदर. आपके अंदर जो कहानी है उसको पहले निकालो अपने अंदर से. What do you want to tell the world? Some people like want to tell about friendship. So one of the most beautiful stories I have read about friendship is Khalid Hosseini's The Kite Runner. It is a beautiful book, and look at the beauty of a friendship which develops, and it talks of an era inside which a country also transforms. So see, there are so many layers in a story. So whenever you tell a story, look at the background which is there inside which you're telling that story. It's very important for us to figure out that the story is not just about people, it's about an environment. You're sharing a world with them. You don't have to tell them what sequins and what kind of colors this dress has got, but you must tell them that what era and what pressures and what stresses were happening at that time, and how is a person growing up in a village. If you're telling a village environment, and that village has going through certain transformation, let's say in the late 80s, when suddenly India had decided that it need to open the market up. So people were, at the time, you weren't probably born in those days, when in the late 80s there was a huge influx of, what are those Panasonic tape recorders, or yes, it became like a thing, fashion statement to have something foreign in your house. It was like a symbol that, oh, I have become someone important because I have someone in Canada or in America who can send me some nice t-shirts. Those were the things that became our symbols at that time in India. So aspirational. So when you're telling a story about a middle class family which is growing in these aspirational times of India, then you must talk about aspiration in that family, and yet you must talk about aspiration as a nation also. We wanted to rub shoulders with the world, and that's why we were also trying to figure out how to be aspirational in our life. So in your story, the milieu or the kind of the environment is very important. When you're talking of the story, the other thing is the dynamics of relationships. People are not islands. So every human being will have many connections with people, and that's how they become who they are. So how did this person become who they were in your story? And why are you telling that person's story is very important for us to, what is the message you want to send out? So these are things which are like important factors when you think about storytelling. That your story should not just be a story about a person's growth from being a zero to a hero or something like that. It needs to also tell a much larger, deeper, you know, thing, which is about how this whole world is evolving as this person evolves around them. So you as a person are not just you who's grown up from being a young girl to being you today. There have been things in this time. There have been Bombay blasts, there have been Delhi blasts, there have been terrorist activities, there have been beautiful things happening also in this world around that time. They have all impacted you in some way or your family in some way. So our story must somehow, weave things into that. If we are telling a realistic story about things, I feel it's a thing that you need to get out of yourself and then weave it into the environment. Huh? That is a very important aspect of storytelling that I feel as a writer. So coming to Sir, I'm sure he'll have his own thoughts.
No, the message I can only thing which I can share about stories is that facts tell, stories sell. So, but the message which I would like to give to all, to everyone listening to this interview is that you are much more powerful than what you think you actually are, and you would never realize that there is a lot within you lying untapped every time. And the best way to find out what is how powerful you are is to question yourself. Look within. The answers are within you. Every time you answer a question, you are revealing a layer within yourself. That is what I would like to tell all the audience. The second message which I would like to give, which the character of my novel Stop Being a Magoo says, is hard work. लक्ष्य ना उजल होने पाए is hard work, which says that मेहनत का पाया अल्प नहीं होता, जो अधूरा रह जाए वो संकल्प नहीं होता, हार को रखना अपने से दूर क्योंकि जीत का कोई विकल्प नहीं होता. And the second thing is choose your goals wisely, and once you choose your goals, stick to them. And he says further, लक्ष्य ना उजल होने पाए, आगे बढ़ता चल, सफलता तेरे कदम चूमेगी, आज नहीं तो कल. That's it.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm gonna write it down after the session. I'll only, this is my affirmation for every day. Okay, so to end this session, in the introduction itself, Deepam sir, you were telling me to say 2 3 lines which you have written. So we would really love to hear that.
Yeah, so I have this book has about 32 couplets from all across the Indian mysticism. The whole thing was that I wrote this book with initially it was supposed to be like, as he said, facts tell. I wanted to write it as non-fiction, but then I decided to write about the mysticism and the landscape of India's mysticism through a story. And the landscape of spirituality of India is very colorful and it is full of poetry and music. So this book covers the Sufi, the Bauls, the from Maharashtra, from various places that is there, including Mirza Ghalib also is there in this. So I'll sing you 2 lines from just Sufi and Baul portions, which Bauls is a Bengali, almost like Sufis, and there's Lalon Fakir, who was like one of the most famous Bauls of his time. And Bulle Shah is one of the most beautiful in the Punjab side. So I'll start with Bulles, the famous one which you all probably know, but in a sur जो मेरा दिया हुआ है. बुल्लिया की जाना मैं कौन, बुल्लिया की जाना मैं कौन. So I just want to tell you that this one is a very beautiful one which आपने पहले सुना है, रबी शेरगिल ने भी गाया है, very popular tune of बुल्ले की जाना मैं कौन, कि who knows who I am. This is how Vinny opens his singing with Jay in the story also. The first prelude is that it's called the taut string. वो Jay आता है in his excitement और Vinny is tightening and setting the strings of his tanpura at that time in an airport. और जय एक झटके से कुछ करता है और इसका तानपुरे का स्ट्रिंग टूट जाता है. तो स्ट्रिंग टूटने के बाद वो कहता है कि हमारी जिंदगी भी ऐसी है, जब हम बहुत स्ट्रेस में होते हैं ना, अगर हम स्ट्रेस को हटाने के लिए और स्ट्रेस लेते हैं, इसीलिए वो स्ट्रिंग टूट जाती है. तो जय को पहला ये सबक मिलता है कि जब हम स्ट्रेस में हो तब हम और स्ट्रेस ले रहे हैं. To reduce the stress, we are actually, in fact, reversing and increasing the stress. That's the time he sings this song to him. And then there was the other one, which is Lalon Fokir, which is Vinny's guru sings this song to him in the past portion of the story. He was a Sufi mystic in the story. মিলন হবে কত দিনে, মিলন হবে কত দিনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, মিলন হবে কত দিনে, মিলন হবে কত দিনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে, আমার মনের মানুষের সনে. So in this is talking मनेर के अंदर एक बैठा है जिसको हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, हमारे ही अंदर छुपा हुआ है. So the Baul mystics sing about this, you know, हमारे अंदर जो एक ज्ञानी, एक ईश्वर बैठा है, हमारी खोज बाहर उसी के लिए है, जबकि वो अंदर बैठा है हमारे. And that is how he teaches Vinny through this whole this thing, and Vinny learns the whole way to, you know, teach people through music and poetry. So I'm sure that I've just given you little hints. I'm sure later someday we'll sit and sing together, and that will be a happy evening. All of us will be there together.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much,
That was
sir.
very, very good.
Thank you.
That was so
Thank
good.
you, sir.
तो
Our
दीपम जी
session
कहाँ
has
कहाँ रहते हैं? बैंगलोर रहते, बॉम्बे रहते हैं या दिल्ली रहते हैं?
जी मैं बॉम्बे रहता हूँ और आप सब यहाँ वेलकम है, आइए. एंड वी विल डू सत्संग. आई डू सत्संग एवरी वीक. मेरे यहाँ पे भजन मैं ही बनाता हूँ, मैं ही गाता हूँ. तो आके बैठिए, कभी सुनते हैं बैठ के.
And is this the first book or you have written books before also?
Fiction wise, this is the first. Otherwise, I have written another book long ago called The Timeless Faith. It was on Hinduism. And
Okay.
I have been writing for years. मतलब television film तो मेरा काम चलता ही रहता है. That is there. और है काफी, मतलब लिखा काफी कुछ है. रोज आता है, पेपर में भी कुछ आता रहता है, चीजें आती रहती है. So most welcome anytime.
And
thank
if
you.
by any chance you're coming to Delhi,
Of
I would love to meet you.
100%, sir. It will be a pleasure.
Thank you
So
so much.
we
Thank you
both
so
need
much.
to thank you for such a lovely afternoon that you created for us. And Sama baat diya. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Chalo.
so much, sir. It was really a very good session, and I hope you both have enjoyed as much as our audience did.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Sure. Real pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.